November 2nd, 2022, 11:47 p.m., Nassau, Bahamas. A 30-year-old in cargo shorts is staring at a screen showing $8 billion vanishing in real time. His name is Sam Bankman-Fried. 72 hours ago, he was worth $32 billion. Now he's watching the second largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world collapse under his fingertips. 10 days from now, FTX will file for bankruptcy. 2 years from now, he'll be sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. But here's what makes this different from every other financial scandal you've heard about. Sam wasn't some Wall Street veteran. He was an MIT graduate who said he wanted to give away his fortune. He lived in a penthouse with 10 roommates. He drove a Toyota Corolla. And somehow, he convinced the smartest investors in the world to hand him billions. This is the story of how one man built a $32 billion empire on nothing but code, charisma, and customer money. There's a pattern that repeats whenever new money meets weak oversight. Stage 1, the visionary arrives with a better idea. Stage 2, money floods in faster than systems can handle it. Stage 3, the gap between appearance and reality starts to grow. Stage 4, insiders use complexity as camouflage. Stage 5, one question breaks the spell. Stage 6, the truth comes out in days, not years. Stage 7, we ask how nobody saw it coming. Most people only noticed FTX at stage 6, the bankruptcy, the arrests, the congressional hearings. But this story was already over by stage 4. We just didn't know it yet. In this case, we're watching what happens when stage 2 moves so fast that stages 3 and 4 happen simultaneously, and nobody notices until it's too late. But it didn't start in the Bahamas. It started in a Berkeley apartment in 2017. Sam Bankman-Fried had just quit his job at a trading firm. He discovered something the rest of the world was missing. Bitcoin was trading for different prices in different countries. In the US, one Bitcoin might cost $7,000. In Japan, the same Bitcoin was selling for $7,500. That's a $500 gap. Pure profit, no risk. It's called arbitrage, and in traditional markets, those gaps close in milliseconds. But crypto was different. Crypto was chaos, and chaos, to a numbers guy like Sam, looked like opportunity. Within months, he was moving millions. Within a year, his trading firm was making $1 million a day. By 2019, he'd made enough to start thinking bigger. Why just trade crypto when you could build the exchange where everyone else trades? That's how FTX was born. But here's what nobody asked in those early days. Where was all that early money actually coming from? And more importantly, where was it going? Because the answer to those questions would eventually destroy everything. To understand how FTX fell apart, you need to understand what it was supposed to be. An exchange is basically a marketplace. You don't own the assets. You just connect buyers and sellers. They give you their money to hold. You execute their trades. You charge a small fee. Simple. The golden rule of exchanges: customer money stays customer money. You never ever touch it. It's not yours. It's theirs. This isn't complicated accounting. This is the most basic principle in finance. And yet, Sam Bankman-Fried built his entire empire by breaking that rule. Let's talk about who Sam actually was. Born in 1992 to 2 Stanford law professors. Brilliant kid. Obsessed with numbers and probability. Gets into MIT, studies physics, graduates, and goes to work at Jane Street Capital, one of the best trading firms in the world. But Sam didn't want to just make money. He wanted to make money to give it away. He called it effective altruism. The idea was simple. Maximize your earnings, then donate most of it to the most effective charities. It sounded noble, and it gave Sam something more valuable than money. It gave him a story. The billionaire who lives like a normal guy. The genius who doesn't care about wealth. The trader who's really a philosopher. That story made him different. It made him trusted. Now let's talk about the other company, Alameda Research. This was Sam's trading firm founded in 2017. Alameda was making those arbitrage trades, buying crypto cheap in one country, selling it expensive in another. But Alameda had a problem. Moving money between countries is slow. Moving crypto is fast. That timing gap created risk. What if prices changed while your dollars were stuck in a Korean bank? You'd need a lot of cash sitting in a lot of places. You'd need credit lines. You'd need leverage. So when Sam launched FTX in 2019, he had 2 companies. Alameda Research, the trading firm. FTX, the exchange. In theory, they were separate. Alameda was a customer of FTX, just like everyone else. But here's the fatal flaw. Sam owned both. Same owner, same offices. Same employees rotating between companies. And most importantly, same bank accounts. Court documents later showed FTX had given Alameda a special credit line. $65 billion. Think about that number. $65 billion. That's not a credit line. That's access to the entire vault. Alameda could borrow FTX customer money whenever it wanted. No limits, no oversight, no approvals. Why would Sam set it up this way? Because in his mind, it wasn't stealing, it was liquidity management. Alameda needed cash to make trades. FTX had cash sitting there. As long as Alameda's bets paid off, they'd pay it back. No harm, no foul. Except that's not how it works. Customer deposits aren't your working capital. They're not your hedge fund. They're not your venture capital fund for whatever project sounds interesting. They're customer deposits. And there's a reason every financial regulator on earth treats them differently. But Sam thought he was smarter than that. He'd gone to MIT. He'd worked at Jane Street. He understood risk better than regulators. He understood markets better than lawyers. And for a while, the math worked. Alameda's trades were profitable. FTX was growing. Nobody was checking the accounts. But then the macro environment started to shift. Let's go back to May 2019. FTX launches publicly. The pitch is simple: a crypto exchange for professional traders, better technology than Coinbase, more products than Binance, and it's working. Month 1, 10 million in trading volume. Month 6, 300 million. By the end of year 1, FTX is processing $1 billion a day. That's not normal growth, that's exponential. And the money is flowing in from everywhere. Retail traders, institutions, hedge funds, pension funds exploring crypto. But here's the first temptation moment. Early 2020, COVID hits, markets crash, crypto crashes harder. Alameda Research, Sam's trading firm, has borrowed millions from FTX customer deposits to make leveraged bets. Those bets just went underwater. Alameda owes FTX money it doesn't have. Normal response: shut down Alameda, take the loss, protect customer funds. Sam's response: borrow more. Court records showed that between March and June 2020, Alameda borrowed an additional $1 billion from FTX customer deposits. Nobody knew. There were no public disclosures, no board meetings. Sam and his inner circle just moved the numbers. And then something lucky happened. Crypto recovered. Bitcoin went from 4,000 to 60,000. Alameda's bets paid off. The borrowed money got paid back. Crisis averted. Except Sam learned the wrong lesson. He didn't learn that borrowing customer money was dangerous. He learned that he could get away with it. So he did it again and again. By 2021, FTX is valued at $18 billion. Sam is on magazine covers. He's meeting with Bill Clinton. He's throwing parties in the Bahamas. He's the second largest donor to Democratic campaigns after George Soros. $60 million in political contributions in 1 year. Why? Not because Sam cared about politics, because he wanted access. He wanted regulators to see him as the responsible adult in crypto, the one who'd work with them, the one who'd help write the rules. And it worked. Senators took meetings. The SEC took calls. Sam wasn't just building a company, he was building influence. Now let's talk about the marketing. Tom Brady, Gisele Bündchen, Steph Curry, Larry David in a Super Bowl commercial making fun of people who don't use FTX. They paid $19 million for naming rights to the Miami Heat arena. They sponsored Formula One teams. They hired celebrity investors. This wasn't just marketing. This was manufactured credibility. When you see Tom Brady promoting something, you assume someone checked. You assume lawyers reviewed it. You assume it's legitimate. That's the point. But here's what was happening behind the scenes. Alameda wasn't just borrowing from FTX anymore. It was borrowing to make venture capital investments. Hundreds of millions into crypto startups, many of them founded by Sam's friends, some of them valueless. Court documents showed Alameda invested $500 million in Anthropic, an AI company. Another million in a company that wanted to buy the island nation of Nauru. Does that sound like a trading firm to you? Because it's not. It's a hedge fund gambling with other people's money. Let's do the math. Normal exchange model. Customer deposits, $1,000. Exchange holds $1,000. Customer withdraws $1,000. FTX's actual model. Customer deposits $1,000. FTX sends $800 to Alameda. Alameda loses $500 on bad trades. Customer tries to withdraw $1,000. FTX only has $200. That $200 gap, that's the crime. But as long as new deposits kept coming in, the gap didn't matter. It's like a bank run in reverse. As long as more money comes in than goes out, you can hide any size hole. And in 2021, money was flooding in. FTX raised $900 million from Sequoia Capital, one of the most prestigious venture firms on earth. They valued FTX at $25 billion, then $32 billion. Sam's personal net worth hit $26 billion. He was the richest person under 30. He was talking about giving away most of his fortune. He was planning to spend $1 billion on pandemic preparedness. And nobody asked the obvious question. Where is all this wealth actually coming from? What does FTX actually do that's worth $32 billion? Because the answer was nothing new. It was an exchange. It charged fees on trades. So did 50 other companies. The valuation wasn't based on revenue, it was based on growth. And the growth was only possible because Sam was using customer money to fund everything: the marketing, the investments, the political donations, the stadium naming rights. It was all a circle. Customer money funded growth. Growth attracted more customers. More customers meant more money to borrow. And as long as crypto prices kept going up, none of it mattered. But in November 2021, Bitcoin peaked at $69,000. By June 2022, it was $20,000. That's a 70% crash. And when crypto crashes, trading volumes drop. Fewer trades means less revenue. Less revenue means you can't keep borrowing. And that's when the machine starts to break. Let's talk about how the money actually flowed, because this is where it gets dangerous. You open an FTX account. You deposit $10,000. FTX is supposed to hold that in a segregated account, but instead, your $10,000 goes into a general pool, and that pool has a backdoor. The backdoor is called Alameda Research. Court records showed FTX's code had a special exemption. Alameda could have a negative balance, up to $65 billion negative. Think about what that means. Every other customer had limits. If you tried to withdraw more than you had, the system said no. But Alameda could withdraw everything. So your $10,000 would sit in FTX for maybe a day. Then it would get transferred to Alameda. Alameda would use it to make a trade, or buy a condo in the Bahamas, or invest in some crypto startup. And FTX's balance sheet would just show an IOU from Alameda. But here's the problem with IOUs. They're only worth something if the other side can pay. Let's do the math again. Normal scenario: FTX holds $1 billion in customer deposits. FTX has $1 billion in cash. Balance sheet: $1 billion assets, $1 billion liabilities. Actual scenario: FTX holds $1 billion in customer deposits. FTX has $200 million in cash. FTX has $800 million IOU from Alameda. Balance sheet: $1 billion assets. On paper, $1 billion liabilities. But what if Alameda can't pay? Then FTX's assets aren't $1 billion. They're $200 million, and you've got an $800 million hole. That's called insolvency. And insolvency is a crime when you're holding customer money. But Sam had a solution. He called them FTT tokens. FTT was FTX's own cryptocurrency. They created it out of nothing. Just wrote code that said, this token exists. Then they decided it was worth $22 per token. Who decided that? They did. It's circular. FTX issues FTT. FTX says FTT is worth $22. Alameda holds billions of dollars worth of FTT. Alameda uses FTT as collateral to borrow real money. See the problem? You can't use your own monopoly money as collateral for real loans. Except they did. Court documents showed Alameda's balance sheet in mid-2022. Total assets, $14 billion. Actual cash, less than $3 billion. The rest, FTT tokens they created themselves. And this worked until someone asked one simple question. What happens if FTT loses value? Because in crypto, tokens lose value all the time. If FTT dropped from $22 to $2, Alameda's entire balance sheet would evaporate. And that would mean FTX's customer deposits were gone. This is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The entire empire was built on FTX's own token, a token they controlled, a token with no fundamental value, a token that only had price because they said it did. It's not even a Ponzi scheme. It's worse. It's a Ponzi scheme where the asset backing everything is a shared delusion. And in November 2022, that delusion broke. November 2nd, 2022. CoinDesk publishes a story. It's not even that dramatic. Just a leaked balance sheet from Alameda Research. The balance sheet shows $14 billion in assets. Over half of it is FTT tokens. The reporter asks a reasonable question. Is Alameda's solvency dependent on a token created by its sister company? Within hours, the crypto world notices. Within a day, people start asking questions on Twitter. Within 2 days, someone important responds. Changpeng Zhao. Everyone calls him CZ. He runs Binance, the largest crypto exchange in the world. He tweets, due to recent revelations, we will be liquidating our FTT holdings. Binance holds $500 million worth of FTT. If they sell, the price crashes. If the price crashes, Alameda's collateral evaporates. If Alameda's collateral evaporates, they can't pay back FTX. If they can't pay back FTX, customer deposits are gone. This is the point of no return. November 6th, FTT is trading at $22. November 7th, $15. Customers start withdrawing from FTX. 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. By the end of the day, requests hit $1 billion. FTX only has a few hundred million in actual cash. Remember, the rest is tied up in Alameda. Sam tries to calm people down. He tweets, FTX is fine. Assets are fine. He's lying. November 8th, $4 billion in withdrawal requests. FTX halts withdrawals. When an exchange halts withdrawals, it's over. That's the confession. That's the admission that the money isn't there. Sam tries one last move. He calls CZ'd. He offers to sell FTX to Binance. CZ agrees to look at the books. November 9th. CZ's team spends 6 hours reviewing FTX's accounts. They walk away. CZ tweets, "Our deal is off. FTX's issues are beyond our ability to help." Translation, the hole is too big. Even the biggest exchange in the world can't save this. That's when Sam knows it's over. 48 hours from first withdrawal to total collapse. The second largest crypto exchange in the world, $32 billion valuation, gone. November 11th, 2022, FTX files for bankruptcy. Court-appointed investigators start going through the books. What they find is worse than anyone imagined. $10 billion in customer funds missing. Not missing like misplaced. Missing like spent. Spent on condos, spent on political donations, spent on venture capital investments, spent on Alameda's trading losses. The bankruptcy filings describe it as old-fashioned embezzlement, but let's be specific about the damage. 1 million customers. Some people had their entire life savings in FTX, retirement accounts, college funds. Money they needed to pay rent, all gone. One customer testified they lost $300,000. Their entire disability settlement from a car accident, gone overnight. Another customer was a small business owner in the Philippines. He'd built up $50,000 over 5 years. He was going to use it to expand his shop. Gone. These aren't abstract numbers. These are real people who trusted a platform that spent $100 million on marketing to look trustworthy. But here's what makes it even worse. Court documents showed Sam and his inner circle knew. They knew in mid-2022 that Alameda owed FTX $8 billion. They knew FTX didn't have the cash to cover withdrawals. They knew customers were at risk, and they kept taking deposits anyway. In September 2022, 3 months before the collapse, FTX ran a marketing campaign. FTX, your funds are safe. At that exact moment, the company was insolvent by $8 billion. That's not just fraud. That's knowing, deliberate deception. Let's do the final math. Customer deposits, $16 billion. Cash actually available, $4 billion. Money sent to Alameda, $8 billion. Money spent on venture investments, $2 billion. Money spent on real estate and political donations, $2 billion. Gap, $12 billion. That $12 billion is the crime, but it's also $12 billion in human damage. 12 billion in destroyed trust. 12 billion reasons why every crypto skeptic says, "I told you so." And the worst part? Sam's team saw it coming. Internal messages showed executives panicking in October. One executive texted, "We're so unbelievably beyond screwed if customers keep withdrawing." Another, "We need to stop taking new deposits immediately." Sam's response, "We'll be fine." Narrator question, "Would you call that optimism or denial?" November 12th, Sam steps down as CEO. A bankruptcy specialist named John Ray takes over. John Ray had overseen the Enron bankruptcy, the biggest corporate fraud in U.S. history up to that point. His first filing in the FTX case says this: "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls. Coming from the guy who cleaned up Enron, that's saying something. The controls he's talking about, there weren't any. No board meetings, no financial audits, no separation between companies. Employees had access to customer funds through a messaging app. They called it the backdoor. They literally had a Slack channel called wire fraud. This is where it becomes irreversible, not because the money was gone, because the people in charge knew it was gone and kept lying about it. That's the difference between a mistake and a crime." December 2022, FBI arrests Sam Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas. He's extradited to New York, charged with 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. Maximum sentence, 115 years. But Sam isn't alone. Caroline Ellison, she ran Alameda Research. She was also Sam's on and off girlfriend. She flips. She testifies that Sam directed her to use FTX customer funds. She provides messages showing he knew exactly what was happening. Gary Wang, co-founder and chief technology officer. He built the code that gave Alameda unlimited access. He flips too. Nishad Singh, director of engineering. He processed the wire transfers. He also testifies against Sam. All 3 take plea deals. All 3 cooperate. The trial starts October 2023. Prosecutors present a simple case. Sam took customer money. Sam spent customer money. Sam lied about it. The defense argues Sam was just a bad manager, that he didn't understand the details, that other people were responsible. But the messages don't lie. Prosecutors show texts where Sam discusses using customer funds. They show spreadsheets where he calculates how much they can borrow. They show meetings where he tells employees to move money between accounts. This wasn't negligence. This was intentional. November 2023. Jury deliberates for 4 hours. Guilty on all 7 counts. March 2024. Sentencing hearing. Prosecutors ask for 40 to 50 years. Defense asks for 5 to 6 years. Judge Lewis Kaplan doesn't buy the defense. He says Sam showed no remorse. He says Sam lied on the witness stand. He says Sam knew exactly what he was doing. 25 years in federal prison. Think about that timeline. From billionaire to inmate in 16 months. But here's who didn't go to prison. The celebrities who promoted FTX. Tom Brady paid $20 million in a settlement. No admission of guilt. Giselle paid an undisclosed amount. Steph Curry, Shaq, Naomi Osaka, all settled, none charged. The venture capitalists who invested billions. Sequoia Capital wrote their investment down at zero. And they apologized to their investors. And they made a statement about improving due diligence. No charges. The politicians who took donations. Many returned the money. Many donated it to charity. None faced consequences. So let's be clear about who paid. The customers paid. The employees who weren't executives paid. And Sam paid. But the ecosystem that enabled him? The investors who didn't ask basic questions? The celebrities who lent credibility without checking? The regulators who met with him instead of investigating him? They're fine. That's the pattern we should be talking about. So what do we learn from this? Lesson 1. For investors and customers. If something is too complex to explain, it's probably too complex to be safe. FTX's pitch was simple, but the business model was deliberately opaque. Offshore entities, no audits, no regulatory oversight. That's not innovation. That's a red flag. When someone says, don't worry about the details, worry about the details. When someone lives in the Bahamas, but their customers are American, ask why. When someone promises incredible returns with no risk, remember, there's always risk. Lesson 2. For regulators, charisma isn't compliance. Sam testified before Congress. He met with the SEC. He donated to campaigns. And everyone treated him like a partner instead of a subject. And that's the problem. Regulatory capture doesn't always look like corruption. Sometimes it just looks like access. The crypto industry spent hundreds of millions on lobbying. They wanted to write their own rules. And for a while, it worked. Until it didn't. We need clear rules. We need enforcement. We need regulators who understand that innovation doesn't exempt you from basic safeguards. Customer money is customer money. That rule is old for a reason. Lesson 3, for the system. The incentives are broken. Venture capitalists made money on FTX's rise. They lost money on FTX's fall. But they didn't lose more than they made elsewhere. So what's the lesson? Move fast, ask questions later, and if it blows up, write it off. That's not a bug. That's the system working as designed. Same with celebrity endorsements. Tom Brady made millions promoting FTX. He paid millions in settlements. Did he lose money overall? We don't know, but the customers definitely did. We need accountability that goes beyond the CEO. We need liability for investors who claim to do due diligence but don't. We need standards for celebrity endorsements that go beyond, here's the risk disclosure in tiny print. Because right now, the incentive is to pump up the valuation, take the money, and move on before it collapses. And when it does collapse, the people who enabled it walk away. Every financial crisis follows the same script. New technology, rapid growth, weak oversight. Someone crosses the line. Everyone acts shocked. We promise to do better. Then we do it again. FTX isn't special. It's just the latest example. Different story, same playbook. November 2nd, 2022, 11:47 p.m., Nassau, Bahamas. Sam Bankman-Fried is watching $8 billion disappear. But that's not what he's really watching. He's watching the moment his story stops working. For 3 years, he convinced the world he was different. The altruistic billionaire, the responsible crypto guy, the genius who'd give it all away. And people believed it. Not because it was true, but because they wanted it to be true. We want to believe someone can get rich and stay good. We want to believe innovation doesn't need rules. We want to believe this time is different, but it never is. The rules exist for a reason. Customer money stays customer money. You can't borrow your way out of insolvency. And complexity doesn't make fraud legal. It just makes it harder to see. Until someone asks the simple question, where's the money? And the answer is, gone.